I'm live. Alrighty, guys. So we're gonna have a lot to cover today. Um, if you don't already know, Monday the IG report was released from Mr. Horowitz. It's an extensive report. I believe it's like 430 pages, 436 pages, something like that. I've skimmed through most of it very, very quickly, very cursory skim. I do not agree with the premise of the FBI opening up the I guess they call it Crossfire Hurricane. That's the team that was put together to investigate allegations from a friendly foreign government's alleged. They alleged that I guess one of Trump's campaign members was involved with Russia. The deal is that the that wasn't true. Um, and so uh, I'd like to know who the friendly foreign government is. Now the IG report has been redacted for public release, so there is a secret version of it floating around. So obviously, I would seriously like to get my hands on a copy of that. But we'll continue. We'll wait here for a while. I guess he's set to testify probably around 10 o'clock um, to to the U.S. Senate regarding his IG report. Attorney General Bill Barr came out and stated that he also disagrees with the basis or the premise as to why the case was opened. Um, and also, Mr. Durham has also come out and disagreed. So we're in for some interesting times, guys. I know this has absolutely nothing to do with the title or the description of the video, but as I said, we're waiting here to see when this Mr. Horowitz is going to come and testify. But the thing is that I find it absolutely incredibly interesting that after the goat rope and the sham hearings that the intelligence community had on at the U.S. House of Representatives with shitty shift. I mean shifty. I mean you know what I'm saying. Uh, with that guy, I find it hilarious that we ran through the gambit of bribery. We ran through the gambit of basically a quid pro quo. We started with a quid pro quo. That was the phrase that they were using. Then it went to bribery. Then it went to extortion. And now we landed on just two articles of impeachment. Only two: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Now here's the thing. Okay, abuse of power is very subjective and it is very partisan in the House. It is not there's no bipartisan support. So for anyone to suggest that the President of the United States abused his power is ludicrous. And it's very easily debatable. It's very easily explainable. And you can explain that away. And I know the President of the United States has his reasons for, holding on to the information as to why he made the decision that he made. But we already have information out of the the Office of Budget, Office of Congressional Budget, or something like that. But they've already stated that they held the funds for official reasons that were unrelated to the conversation on July 25th. So this whole thing's a goat rope, but I know people are sick and tired of listening to it. But the reason why I bring all that up is because the same day that they announced the two articles of impeachment that they're going to vote on, Nancy Pelosi says that they're gonna move forward with the USMCA. I can't believe it. And then what's even better is that there she says that the whole time she was waiting on it, that she was making the USMCA better, and then that it's a better trade deal than the one that President Trump proposed, and it's a far better deal than NAFTA. So she's stealing credit from the president, but she's saying that the deal was great. But we all know that the president of the United States was the one behind all this, and we know that he's the one, um, that's pushing forward on the USMCA. So Nancy Pelosi, you could try and steal credit for it, but you're not getting it. So right now, you're just gonna please bear with me. I'm just gonna go through and share some of the links, or share the links that we're live here on several different social media platforms, so that way people can get in on this. Um, it's going to be interesting. There's actually like 17 different cases in the IG report that was cited where the FBI basically where the FBI basically failed, um, and it's absolutely ludicrous to think that there's 17 processes that along the way failed, that allowed the FBI to get to a position where they were conducting FISA, foreign intelligence surveillance activities on U.S. citizens on a presidential campaign, who are participating in a presidential campaign based on sole information from a friendly foreign government, and none of it was corroborated. And it was only after they opened up the intelligence case. Well, I guess technically they didn't get the FISA warrants until after they got the Steele dossier. So it's absolutely ludicrous to me that 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 the FBI can do something like this. Um, and again, if I seem scatterbrained, it's because I'm, like I said, going through various social media sites to post up the links, so that way people can join us here at when we go live. What we really care about is what IG Horowitz has to say. I know right now I got Fox News up; they got their analysis, but nobody really cares about what it is that they got to say, because you all care about what I got to say. So, if you haven't noticed, I got a new look here. I cleaned it up a little bit. I got me a little mic, and maybe I look professional. So, hopefully you guys like the new look. I'm very interested into seeing what's going to happen with. Did I post this? Come on, guys, let's get real. I'm very interested to see what Mr. Durham's findings are going to be, because he's opened up in a criminal investigation into the alleged FISA abuse. So um, I am very interested in his findings. So got a lot of stuff going on, guys. I will tell you this. So some of you, I don't know if you've actually been to the website AmericanOverwatch.org. If you have and you haven't visited lately, or if you have and you've frequently gone back, you may have noticed that the link analysis hasn't really been updated. And that's because my link analysis file was located on a computer where my computer crashed. So I actually lost the file. So I have to recreate the link analysis. I know is very disturbing. Coincidental? Coincidental? You know, maybe somebody from the DNC hacked into my junk and broke my stuff. And what's crazy is it's not like I can go to Liberal Apple and have them fix it and find all my stuff on there because then they might break it or they might delete it and say, "Oh, whoops." No, I'm just kidding, Apple. I know you guys would never do that. It's especially because I have such a strong platform. You know, I have like what 9 followers on YouTube. God knows that if that got out on my YouTube channel, you guys would it would break the bank. So after I get a lot of this out of the way, sorry guys, there is a lot of channels that I am a part of on a variety of different social media. So I'm just trying to get this up and going so that way people can join us. If you're already with us, I apologize. Please bear with me. Um, the IG hasn't begun testifying. I believe it's probably around 10 a.m. is when he's going to start. So I think I'm just going to leave it right there. And we'll jump over to Twitter. We'll share this over on Twitter. Now, listen, guys, if you're following me on YouTube and you haven't found me on Facebook or Twitter, I will tell you that my Facebook username is AmericanOverwatch.org. I know that's very confusing because if you look at the URL, you'll see www.facebook.com/AmericanOverwatch.org. um, However, my Twitter profile is. Well, what is it? Let me see if I can figure this out. It's very weird because I guess you can only have like a finite amount of like usernames. My profile, maybe. Let me click on that. There it is. Excuse me. It is at American Over Wa number 1. So it's American Over WA1. That is my official Twitter channel. How you know that it is my official channel is because I have a huge following. I have 6 of them. 6 followers on my Twitter. So, if you'd like to support me over there on Twitter, just click the follow button. I do post things on there occasionally. My primary focus on social media is Facebook. That's where we do post the majority of our. We share a lot of the different content from a variety of sources to keep people up to date. We do typically, rarely, we share original content. When we go live on YouTube and we post links there in Facebook. You can always go to our channel at YouTube. Subscribe there to us. The link is in our Facebook page. It's right there pinned to the very top. And you'll be able to subscribe to us. Click on the bell to get notifications and anytime that we go live or if we upload new videos. You'll be able to get that information and watch us right away. What I want to show you guys briefly while we're still waiting is something that we're actually putting together. And that would be the bells of respondents. Everybody telling me. Well, thank you, Mr. Jim Burner, for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if you're going to jump over here on YouTube and give us some airtime, but I do appreciate it. All right, gee then. Okay, so anyways, uh, ultimately, what's going to end up happening is this whole ordeal is basically been a complete sham, and I say the word sham in lieu of another word that might get me demonetized. So, uh, I the thing is that all of the information that came out of the U.S. House of Representatives attempts to impeach the president of the United States, to include all of the reports, all the testimony, all of the ambassadors' identities, everything that came out of all of this, gives us a very open and very clean look into uh, some of the deep, dark, twisted corruption in, you know, it actually gives me ability to actually review all of these documents, connect the dots to people who are involved with other people, and to see if they're involved in overseas corporations that are funneling money back into U.S. based corporations for the purpose of laundering money and paying themselves with U.S. taxpayer money. That is the benefit behind all of this. However, unfortunately, um, unfortunately, you know, the reality of it is that we've also just aired out our dirty laundry. So, you know, it's that's a shame. That's a huge shame, and I just I don't know, I don't know where we're going with this. So, um, I don't know where there's a good spot to put my pretty face. Maybe I should put my pretty face up here, make me a little smaller, so you guys could read whatever the hell is going on there. Now, you know, the Steele dossier, so the Crossfire Hurricane opened up a case based off a friendly foreign government. Okay. Crossfire Hurricane was the team that was put together by the FBI that was predicated off the information that was given to them by the friendly foreign government. I want to know who the friendly foreign government is. I want to know if it was the UK. I want to know if it was the Aussies. I want to know if it was Ukraine. It is very important for us to understand who that is, and the reason why is because um, once we understand that, we can begin to understand whether or not the person providing the information, was actually provided the information for good purposes or for nefarious purposes. And if it seems to me like if I can give a tip to the FBI to investigate somebody that I don't like, and I weaponize the FBI, it seems to me like I could probably be held criminally liable because I just filed a fraudulent report with a federal agency or a law enforcement agency. So it seems to me like that's something pretty damn significant. And although this person is a foreign actor, you know, they're acting on behalf of a U.S. politician. There's a conspiracy to defraud the FBI, and that person should be charged criminally for that. So it's very significant that we need to understand who the friendly foreign government is that initially provided the information that caused the FBI to open up the criminal intelligence investigation called, and put the team together that was called Crossfire Hurricane. Crossfire Hurricane again was investigating the allegations against, I think, I believe it was Carter Page, and along the way the Steele dossier surfaced. So to me, it seems like it's a little bit more of a conspiracy, where the Clintons and Obama were behind a lot of this, and they did exactly what the Democrats are accusing President Trump of trying to do with Vice President Biden, which is they used the U.S. or I mean they used the friendly foreign government to spy on the U.S. or to create dirt on President Trump to give U.S. intelligence agencies reasonable suspicion to open up a FISA investigation into the Trump campaign, and that's why they're acting the way they are. You see, when you talk about people who are, um, cheating, when people cheat, they start to believe that the other person's cheating. They start to believe that the other person's doing the same thing, and they start reflecting or mirror imaging themselves. So that's a really strong tell when people start to do that kind of thing. So it's the Democrats are notorious for doing that. Again, switching pages back to the IG Horowitz. I think he's set to testify probably soon around 10 o'clock. I'm not 100% certain, but as we get a little bit closer here, we'll see what's going on. It says I'm live. I just want to check to make sure that there's good sound quality and things like that. Well, I don't know. All right, cool. So everything seems to be working fine. That's good. Although the preview on my console is definitely not up to date. So that's fine. Um, Soon I'll be I'm gonna step out. I will be back real soon. Hopefully before the the IG starts his testimony. If not, I will be back as fast as I can to catch that. In the meantime, I'm going to continue streaming the events as it unfolds, and we'll see what happens here with the IG. It looks like we're coming up soon. We've got members of the U.S. Senate sitting. The floor is beginning to fill up. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe around 10 o'clock is probably when they're going to kick off. So, anybody that's interested, stay tuned. I'm going to kick the sound on here for you guys, and then we'll be back. I'll be back momentarily. I'm going to keep the live stream running, and I'll be back in about 2 shakes of the lamb's tail.
Have the perfect holiday gift delivered to their door at a very special price. This family-sized gift includes 4 perfectly sized 6-ounce filet mignon. The Omaha Steaks filet mignon is world famous for incredible flavor and irresistible tenderness. Here's what our customers have to say.
I'd recommend to anyone. Absolutely outstanding beef.
Perfect for gifting.
Wow, well-marbled, delicious flavor, and super juicy.
The Omaha Steaks perfect holiday gift is a truly one-of-a-kind gift that keeps on giving. They'll love it when it arrives and think of you all over again when they get together, cook, and share these incredible meals. With 20 main courses in the package, your gift means a lot of togetherness. Order today, and the perfect holiday gift includes 4 tender, perfectly sized 6-ounce filet mignon and signature steak seasoning, plus 4 delicious juicy pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 quarter-pound Omaha Steaks burgers, 4 golden crispy potatoes au gratin, and 4 caramel apple tartlets for dessert, all for just $79.99. Call or click for your gift right now and we'll include 4 more burgers free. That's 20 amazing dinners plus sides and dessert for just $79.99.
We're eating the Omaha Steaks fillets. Merry Christmas.
Don't miss this opportunity to bring your friends and family together. Call this number or search SHARE on omahasteaks.com to order yours right now.
Fox News Alert now. We are just moments away from Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Capitol Hill. This will be about his report on the DOJ and the FBI's conduct during the 2016 presidential election. Joining us now, Ken Starr. Ken, welcome back. And we are about to hear opening statements from the chair of that committee, Senator Lindsey Graham, who has described what he calls a criminal conspiracy to defraud the FISA court. Your expectations for what we are about to see and hear in that hearing room?
We're going to hear a tale not of negligence, not of foul-ups, but of deliberate wrongdoing of the most profound kind that really does take us back to the bad old days of the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover. I think we're all going to be morally outraged, and should be. The issue of what was motivating this, was it politics, was it not? That's going to be an open question. The key point is this conduct was absolutely wrong at a moral and professional level. It's not negligence, it's misconduct.
He said, Senator Graham said he wants to know what James Comey knew and what he knows. What did Andrew McCabe know? What he knows now? You're going to hear all these questions. They are coming up as we will hear from lawmakers on that Judiciary Committee in the Senate. Ken Starr, stand by as we await the beginning of the hearing.
So we are just minutes away now as the lawmakers start to come into the room here. Michael Horowitz is 57 years old, born here in New York City, educated at Brandeis University and then later at Harvard Law. He's worked for the Justice Department for a long time and was in this position in April of 2012, initially sworn in as the Inspector General for the Department of Justice under President Obama. Worked then as independent of the Justice Department, and this entire investigation that he carried out, should be pointed out, that it was outside of the DOJ and outside of Bill Barr's purview. In fact, leading officials at the Department of Justice did not know what was in the Horowitz report up until it appears about 4 to 6 weeks ago. And Horowitz was wrapping up his report, writing it up, and then drafting his conclusions, which seemed to take quite a long time. You remember, Sandra, there was a long time that we thought this might be out in the spring. Then it moved to the summer, and so now it is out today, and we will get set and ready to listen. And one of the critical factors in all these hearings is always listen to the way the senators, Republican and Democrat, phrase their questions. Oftentimes they have information that's not yet public, and so we'll listen carefully to see their line of questioning today.
Ken, we have a few more moments now as we await the beginning of this hearing. You go back to that interview with Bill Barr when he was asked, based on what you know so far, do you still stand by your statement that the campaign was spied upon? To which Barr replied, it was clearly spied upon. I mean, that's what electronic surveillance is. Final thoughts from you, Ken?
Yes, Andy McCarthy hit the nail on the head. This is just a difference in semantics, nomenclature. Look, spying is just put yourself in that position. You do not know, Carter Page, that your telephones, your email are being monitored by the FBI. And the outrage is, with respect to Carter Page, he was, in fact, an asset of the United States Intelligence Agency, presumably the CIA, possibly also the FBI. And so to cover that up, including to the FISA court, is truly unforgivable. So yes, this was spying, and there's no reason not to call exactly what it was. Carter Page is a victim of American spying by the FBI, and that is a great, great tragedy, and it is a moral outrage.
Ken Starr, stand by as we approach the top of the 10 o'clock hour on the East Coast, and that hearing set to begin shortly.
Just reading this on page 4 here, Sandra. Here's what he's going to say. We found that members of the Crossfire Hurricane team, that's the group of FBI agents who did this investigation, failed to meet the basic obligation to ensure that the Carter Page FISA applications were scrupulously accurate. We identified significant inaccuracies and omissions in each of the 4 applications, 7 in the first FISA application, a total of 17 by the final renewal application. That's page 4, end quote. Ted Cruz on camera. Here we go. 9:59 now here in New York as we are set to begin a brand new hour and get into this hearing, a potentially explosive hearing on the Hill, getting underway in moments. Michael Horowitz set to be in the room, the Inspector General. We've all been waiting to hear from him, and we will in a matter of moments. The origins of the Russia investigation about to unfold. Brand new hour begins right now from New York City. Great to have you along with us today. I'm Bill Hemmer as we get set for yet again, Sandra, an interesting day.
Good Wednesday morning to you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith. There could be fireworks in that room after the DOJ watchdog concluded the FBI's probe of the 2016 Trump campaign had lots of errors and omissions, but was not politically biased. Our team is ready to go, the best team in the business, Chris Wallace and Brett Baer, Martha McCallum and Andy McCarthy, both here with us in New York, and Ken Starr standing by with his legal analysis. We begin first with Brett as we see the hearing room fill up. Brett, your thoughts as we await this. The chairman, Lindsey Graham, on the left side of the screen there, by the way.
Well, Sandra, this will have a much different feel for folks who have been watching these hearings, and it'll have a different sense of where you're going. This is the beginning of this investigation. People may be familiar with it because we've followed it over the past 2.5 years, but there are some media organizations who haven't followed it as much, so this will be opening the door to that. Expect Lindsey Graham to get deep in an opening statement, and then he has 20 minutes at the beginning after Horowitz's opening statement. One of the things you'll hear is questions about what the former FBI director Jim Comey knows, what his deputy Andrew McCabe knew, and this conclusion by the IG that there wasn't political bias in the 17 mistakes or screw-ups at every level on the FISA application. I interviewed Jim Comey back in April of last year, and I asked him a lot of these questions. And if you go down that interview, you can get to. We just got a little clip of it right now. You called the dossier unverified, salacious. Why did you use that to the FISA court to ask for surveillance for Carter Page? Not only use it, but you led with it.
It's not my recollection. My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts.
There was a lot more than the dossier in the FISA application?
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power.
This IG says that it was central and crucial to the FISA application. He also didn't know that it was funded by the Democrats in the Hillary Clinton campaign. Anyway, I think you're going to hear a lot about Jim Comey in this hearing as we get started.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we need to separate two things here. I think that there's something for everybody in this report. For the Republicans, the fact that there were terrible mistakes, some would say illegalities, in the handling of the FISA warrant of Carter Page. The one that I have to say outrages me, to go along with Ken Starr, is the fact that they went to the CIA. Apparently Page was having some contacts with the Russians. They go to the CIA. The CIA says, yeah, in fact, we're using them as a source. In the report, they just say that the CIA official that they had talked to said that it was credible, but didn't say that he was credible in blowing up their theory that what he was doing was wrong. On the other hand, and I don't think this can be forgotten either, Horowitz is very strong on the fact that there was a legitimate basis for opening the investigation. Remember, the Carter Page wiretap was in October of 2016. The investigation into the possible ties between the Trump campaign and Russia was in July of 2016, and go into page 2 of the opening statement by Michael Horowitz. We did not find documentary or testimonial evidence that political bias or improper motivation influenced his decision, the counterintelligence chief, in opening the investigation. We found the Crossfire Hurricane was open for an authorized investigative purpose and with sufficient factual predication. So what Horowitz is going to say is opening the investigation was legitimate. He thinks perhaps the standards were too low, but they were the standards of the FBI at the time. On the other hand, what the FBI did in seeking that FISA warrant back in later on in October of 2016 against Carter Page was a big problem.
You get the impression, Chris, reading through this report that they were fishing for something. Let's see how he answers that. Here's how it worked. Senator Lindsey Graham has an opening statement. We believe it's off the cuff and not scripted, as is usually the case with the senator from South Carolina. To his left, Dianne Feinstein, the Democrat, the ranking member of that committee. She will follow with an opening statement as well. And and then we'll get to Michael Horowitz. 20-minute rounds of questions for each senator here. And to Martha here in New York, Ken Starr struck me a moment ago. He said this was misconduct. It was not oversight. It was misconduct. And everyone should be morally outraged.
I think you're going to see reasons to substantiate that comment, just given what we have now seen as you dig through and get deeper into this report. You have to question the motivation behind some of these actions that are seen as omissions or mistakes. I would also point out that we have to keep in mind the scope of the Inspector General's work here. He was looking at the FBI. He's looking at a very finite group of people who work in the FBI and perhaps some others, perhaps Comey and McCabe, who may have contributed and answered questions for him. But when I spoke to George Papadopoulos about this, who is the trigger for the beginning of this whole investigation last night, he said, you know, we're looking towards Durham because we know he has spoken to these individuals in Europe and Australia and in other places and knows a little bit more about the CIA potential involvement in all of this. So, you know, this is step one. There's more to go, as Bill Barr has said, and I just think that's important to keep in mind.
Michael Horowitz, I mentioned there, been in this job since 2012. He's the one who handled the investigation of the Clinton email matter within the FBI. He's also the one who handled the matter of the Comey memos and his interactions with President Trump. So that's the Trump Tower meeting. That's the dinner the two of them had at the White House after the president had been sworn in. So Horowitz is in the room. Lindsey Graham will kick it off in a moment here.
Andy McCarthy, final thoughts. Says we know Lindsey Graham and the ranking member, Dianne Feinstein, will each get 20 minutes and then 10 minutes for each member after that. Andy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would expect that Senator Graham will focus more on FISA abuse and probably leave to the side the predication of the investigation. I don't think it can be true both that Horowitz says that there's strong predication for the investigation and that he says that the standards are too low, but they met them. I think what he's saying is that there was adequate predication for the investigation given the low standards, which is not hardly an endorsement.
You heard President Trump reacting at that rally in Pennsylvania last night, obviously on the passing of USMCA bill, the announcement of the 2 articles of impeachment, and now another hearing on Capitol Hill. IG Michael Horowitz, Lindsey Graham now speaking. Let's listen in on Capitol Hill.
Would it be okay if they raise their hands? Is that all right?
If they're okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Thank you all. You have labored hard, and your work product is impressive. And I just want to thank you all for what you've done for the country. And Mr. Horowitz, I'm dying to hear from you, but I bet I haven't made 20 minutes of opening statements in a year. But I'm going to take a little bit longer to try to lay out what I think is before us as a nation. Crossfire Hurricane was probably the best name ever given to an investigation in the history of investigations, because I think that's what we wound up with, a crossfire and a hurricane. There's been a lot of media reports about your report before it was issued. And I remember reading all these headlines, lawful investigation with a few irregularities. Everything okay, low-level people kind of got off track. If that's what you get out of this report, you clearly didn't read it. If that's your takeaway, that this thing was lawfully predicated, and that's the main point, you missed the entire report. How do you get a headline like that? That's what you want it to be. You want it to be that and nothing more. And I can assure you, if this had been a Democratic president going through what President Trump had gone through, that would not have been the headline. The headline would be, the FBI takes law into its own hands. Biased agents cut corners, lie to court, ignore exoneration. So the first thing I want you to know is how the cake is baked here. And my goal is to make sure that people, when this is over, whether you like Trump, hate Trump, don't care about Trump, you look at this as more than a few irregularities. Because if this becomes a few irregularities in America, then God help us all. Now, the people that were in charge in this investigation were handpicked by Mr. McCabe, who's now CNN analyst, high up in the FBI, the #2 guy. The first question I will ask in a bit, is this the best of the best? Are these people normal representatives of the Department of Justice and the FBI? I hope you will say no, because I believe it to be no. And if I believed otherwise, I would be incredibly depressed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to assume something for the sake of argument, that there was a lawful predicate to open up a counterintelligence investigation. And I want you to know the standard to open one up is about like that. And I also want you to know a counterintelligence investigation is not a criminal investigation. They're not trying to solve a crime. They're trying to stop foreign powers from interfering in America. That a counterintelligence investigation is designed to protect Americans from foreign influence. I want the American people to know there was an effort to affect Hillary Clinton's campaign by foreign actors. The FBI picked up that effort, they briefed her about it, and they were able to stop it. We will be receiving a defensive briefing tomorrow as a committee from the FBI to tell us all about what we should be watching for. And they may be some specific threats against us. I don't know. But I know they're going to brief us to protect us, not to surveil us. And here's what I want every American to know. From the time they opened up Crossfire Hurricane till this debacle was over, they never made any effort to brief Donald Trump about suspected problems within his campaign. They had one briefing talking about, you know, the Russians are out there, you better beware. Nothing about Carter Page, nothing about Papadopoulos, nothing about the other people that they thought might be working with the Russians. Why did they not tell him that? I hope you can give us an answer. Bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, a counterintelligence investigation is a good thing until it becomes a bad thing. Because it doesn't take much to open one. And the worst thing can happen is for people to open one up whose real purpose is not to protect an American, but to surveil them. Senator Feinstein found herself in a situation all of us may one day find ourselves in. A longtime employee was suspected of having ties to a foreign government. They informed her and she took appropriate action. How easy would it be for somebody to come into our campaigns as a volunteer? We really don't know who they are. You just appreciate any help you can get. How easy would it be for all of us to get caught up in this scenario? I hope all of us would appreciate, if you really believe there's somebody in my campaign working with a foreign power, please tell me so I can do something about it. Why didn't they tell Trump? We'll figure that out later, but I think it's a question that needs to be asked. So, for a moment, let's assume that there was a lawful predicate to open up a counterintelligence investigation. What has been described as a few irregularities becomes a massive criminal conspiracy over time to defraud the FISA court, to illegally surveil an American citizen, and to keep an operation open against a sitting president of the United States, violating every norm known to the rule of law. Many of you are prosecutors. Many of you have been U.S. attorneys. Many of you have been defense attorneys. Trump's time will come and go. But I hope we understand that what happened here can never happen again. Because what happened here is not a few irregularities. What happened here is the system failed. People at the highest level of our government took the law in their own hands. And when I say defraud the FISA court, I mean it. To your team, you were able to uncover and discover abuse of power I never believed would actually exist in 2019. How bad is it? It was as if J. Edgar Hoover came back to life. The old FBI, the FBI that had a chip on its shoulder and wanted to intimidate people and find out what was going on in your life and the law be damned. Martin Luther King, and you just fill in the names. So, who ran this thing? The people were handpicked by McCabe, the number 2 guy at the FBI. The supervisory agent, the Deputy Assistant Director for Counterintelligence, is Peter Strzok. He's a big player in all things Crossfire Hurricane. Lisa Page, you may have heard of her. Who was she? She was an FBI lawyer working for McCabe. These are 2 central characters in this debacle. Let me tell you a little bit about who these people are and where they're coming from. Thanks to a lot of hard work by people for Mr. Horowitz, the FBI, and others, here's what we know. Strzok, the frontline supervisor, February the 12th, 2016. Oh, he's, Trump, abysmal. I keep hoping the charade will end and people will just dump him. The problem then is that Rubio will likely lose to Cruz. I never quite made it, and I can understand why they would not consider me a serious candidate. The Republican Party is utter shambles. When was the last competitive ticket they offered? March 3rd, 2016. Page, God, Trump is a loathsome human. Strzok, oh my God, he's an idiot. And you know what? Newsrooms all over the country, people are nodding. This represents the attitude of a lot of people in America, and you can have that attitude, but you shouldn't be in the journalism business. You shouldn't be at the FBI. If you were in the military and you said anything like this about a commander-in-chief, you'd be charged with a crime. Remember the McChrystal debacle, where they had a barroom discussion with a reporter from the Rolling Stone? What's the takeaway? Don't go to a bar with a Rolling Stone reporter. They started talking about how they didn't like Joe Biden, and I was one of the first people to say that is out of bounds. You can have all the political opinions you want, but if you're an officer in the United States military, you will park those opinions and you will not speak ill of the commander-in-chief. But that obviously is not a rule at the FBI, Department of Justice. March 16th, 2016. I cannot believe Donald Trump is likely to be actual serious candidate for president. July 16th, we're getting closer to when this thing opens. And wow, Donald Trump is an enormous douche. Again, a lot of people agree with that. Trump barely spoke, but the first thing out of his mouth was, we're going to win so big. The whole thing is like living in a bad dream. July the 19th, 2016. Trump is a disaster. I have no idea how destabilizing his presidency would be. And a lot of people believe that. You're entitled to believe that, but you should not be an investigator. July the 30th, the investigation's open. And damn, this feels momentous about the investigation, because this matters. The others one did too, but that was to ensure we didn't F something up. This matters because this matters. So super glad to be on this voyage with you. I hope you understand what this voyage was about. August 8th, 2016, 3 days before Strzok was named the frontline supervisor. He's not ever going to become president, right? Page to Strzok. Strzok, no, he won't. We'll stop it. These are the people in charge. August 15th, 2016. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk, that the American people will pick their president, is what they're saying. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. August 26, 2016. Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. People in charge. October 11, 2016.
That they
currently
would,
fighting with Stu for the FISA. Stu was a lawyer who thought
McCabe
this thing
handpicked
was
these
not on
people,
the up
and that
and
they're
up.
all biased, and that they're all
Stood
doing
his
this.
ground
And the
until he
IG
couldn't
report
stand
found
it anymore.
17 inconsistencies.
Eventually got run over.
And still based his
October
premise off
19th.
the fact that the Crossfire
I'm
Hurricane
all
team was
riled
put
up.
together
Trump is an
off of
effing
information
idiot,
from an
is
intelligence
unable to
agency
provide a
from
coherent answer.
they call it a
The New York
friendly foreign
Times
government who
probability
gave them
numbers are dropping
information,
every day.
and that's what opened
I'm
the case.
scared
And
for
the
our
premise
organization.
was
November
he
the
was good
3rd,
with Horowitz.
2016.
That's ridiculous.
Oh
to
my
me.
God, this is effing terrifying. Referencing an article entitled, "A Victory by Trump Remains Possible." November the 9th, 2016. Are you ever going to give out your calendars? Some kind of depressing. Maybe it should be the first meeting of the secret society. November the 13th. I bought all the president's men. I figure I needed to brush up on Watergate. November the 13th, 2016. Finally, two pages away from finishing all the president's men. Page to Struck. Did you know the president resigns at the end? Struck. What? God, that would be so lucky. May 18th, 2017. The date Page accepted a position on the special counsel's team. For me, in this case, I personally have a sense of unfinished business. I unleashed with MYE, whatever that means. Now I need to fix it and finish it. Struck. Who gives a F one more assistant director or
Unleashed? Did you guys catch that? This bitch said unleashed.
You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there. I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part just because of my gut sense and concern. There's no big there. Talking about impeachment. May 22nd, 2017. I'm torn. I think, no, I'm more replaceable than you are in this. I'm the best for it, but there are others who can do it okay. You're different and more unique. This is yours. Talking to Page. All right. That's the frontline supervisor and the lawyer to McCabe. There's a guy named Kleinsmith who eventually alters an email from the CIA to the Department of Justice and FBI. And Mr. Horowitz's team found this out, and how they did it, I will never know. I'm jumping ahead here. But when you read this report, what they find is that a lawyer supervising the FISA process at the FBI, according to Mr. Horowitz, doctored an email from the CIA to the FBI, and he's going to be referred for criminal prosecution. Why is that important? Carter Page, who's been on the receiving end of all this, the foundation to believe he was a foreign agent comes from a dossier that we'll talk about in a minute. In that dossier provided by Christopher Steele, and we'll talk about him in a minute, they claim that Carter Page meets with 3 people known to be Russians, Russian agents, people associated with Russia. Carter Page, while being wiretapped by his government, says, I don't know 2 of these people, and to this day, there's no proof that he ever met 2 of those 3. The 3rd person, he says, yeah, I met him. I told the CIA about my meeting because I was a source for the CIA. So they would have you believe that Carter Page is working against our government, not with our government. So Carter Page in the summer of 2017 is trying to tell anybody and everybody, I was working with the CIA, I reported my contact with this person, and nobody believed him. The CIA had told the FBI it was true earlier, but it never made it through the system. Somebody got so rattled at the FBI, they asked Mr. Kleinsmith to check it out. He checks it out. He communicates with the CIA. Is Carter Page a source for you? In an email exchange, they say, yes, he is. What does Mr. Kleinsmith do? He alters the email to say, no, he's not. And you caught him.
Wow. Wow. Unbelievable that they would do that. Fuck. Oh, I can't even say the word.
So now let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Kleinsmith, if I can find it. Can you get me the Kleinsmith stuff? All right, this is the lawyer supervising the FISA warrant process. The guy that altered this CIA email because he didn't want the court to know that Carter Page actually was a source. And why does that matter? Because if the court had known, then there's a lawful reason for Mr. Page to be talking to the Russian guy. He wasn't working against his country, he was working with his country, which undercuts the idea he's a foreign agent. That's why Kleinsmith lied, because he didn't want to stop this investigation. All right, this is after the election. I am so stressed about what I could have done differently the day after the election. I'm just devastated. I can't wait until I can leave today and just shut off the world for the next 4 days. I'm sure a lot of people felt that way after Trump got elected. Maybe still feel that way. But you shouldn't be in charge of supervising anything about Donald Trump if you feel that way. I just can't imagine the systematic disassembly of the progress we've made over the last 8 years. The Obama administration. The crazies won finally. This is the lawyer that they put in charge of supervising the warrant process. This is the Tea Party on steroids. And I'm sure there are newsrooms all over America saying, that's absolutely right. What is wrong with that? Oh, also, Pence is stupid. Whatever. This is what the guy's saying right after the election. And it's just hard not to feel like the FBI caused some of this. It was a razor thin in some states. Plus, my goddamn name is all over the legal documents investigating Trump's staff. And this is the one that gets me the most. November the 22nd, shortly after the election of Donald J. Trump, the FBI lawyer in charge of supervising the FISA process tweets out to friends, "Viva la resistance." What are the odds that this guy might do something wrong? Would you have to be part of a right-wing conspiracy to predict in the future maybe this guy will get off script? Folks, if these are a few irregularities, the rule of law in this country is dead. And here's the good news. These are not a few irregularities. These are a few bad people that couldn't believe Trump won, didn't want him to win, and when he won, couldn't tolerate the fact that he won. And all these smelly people elected him. This is bad stuff. So if you get out of this report, lawful investigation with a few irregularities, it says more about you than Mr. Horowitz. Now, how the hell did this whole thing start? What got us here today? They opened up a counterintelligence investigation in July. We know the Russians are messing in our election. And it was the Russians.
The whole thing started because the Democrats had been doing what they're claiming President Trump has done against Biden. The whole thing that they're doing right now is that they're saying that a friendly foreign government provided information to the FBI, which led to the investigation being opened. And that was before the Christopher Steele dossier. That's what created the Crossfire Hurricane team, and that's why Andrew McCabe handpicked those assholes, and that's the reason why. And then when it wasn't working the way they thought it was going to work, then they created the Steele dossier to get the FISA warrants, to get to where they're going to go. So this whole thing is absolutely insane.
National security team. This national security team was literally picked up off the street. If you've had a photo with Donald Trump, you spent more time with Donald Trump than Papadopoulos and Page. They're not paid, they're volunteers. But the FBI thinks we need to watch these guys with Manafort, as well as, who's the other one? Flynn, General Flynn. So they open up a counterintelligence investigation. Let's assume for a moment that the small predicate you need has been met. What the hell happened after they opened it up? What did they find? Were their suspicions validated? Or did they find at every turn it's really not true and they ignored it? So one of the first things they tried to do was to get a warrant under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to follow Carter Page, a volunteer for the campaign and American citizen. They applied for the warrant internally in August of 2016, and the lawyers say you don't have enough. Why? Because they had nothing. Maybe this reasonable articulation is this small, but to get a warrant from a court, you got to have probable cause. So the lawyer's saying you don't have it. Everybody is now frustrated, folks. That's not the right answer. So McCabe suggests, the number 2 guy at the FBI, well, let's go look at this Steele dossier. Maybe that will get us over the hump. Just stay tuned. We'll talk about that in a minute. So on September the 19th, for the first time, they introduced the Steele dossier into the warrant application process. It worked. September the 21st, they get a sign-off, let's go get a warrant. The dossier got them to where they wanted to go. As you say, Mr. Horowitz, it was central and basically outcome determinative. Without this dossier, they go nowhere. With it, they're off to the races. Who is Christopher Steele? You thought these other people were bad? Wait till you hear about this guy. Christopher Steele was a former MI6, is that right? 6, 5, whatever it is. He was a British agent. Retired. He had a new line of business. He was hired by a company called Fusion GPS to investigate Donald Trump. Okay? You want to look at foreign influence? You're about to find it. Fusion GPS is on the payroll of the Democratic National Party. Christopher Steele is working for a company to find dirt on Trump, and the money comes from the Democratic Party. Did they tell the court this? No. Is that a bit unnerving? Would be to me. So Christopher Steele is on the payroll of a company funded by the Democratic Party. Here's what Bruce Orr tells the FBI about Christopher Steele. He was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being the U.S. president. This is the guy that gave them the work product to get the warrant. Steele told Orr that if Trump won the elections, Steele's source network may be in jeopardy by a new FBI director and new agency heads appointed by Trump who would have a higher degree of loyalty to the new president and could decide to take action against Steele and his source network. Let me tell you about Christopher Steele. Orr was right. He was on a mission to get Donald Trump. Not only did he provide the dossier that made the difference in getting a warrant, his biases were well known. He was shopping the dossier, do we have it? To anybody and everybody in the media and in politics to see if they would print it. The reason the FBI cut him loose because they found out he was shopping this thing around to media outlets rather than being a valid source. But after they knew he was shopping it around, they kept him around anyway because Mr. Orr kept talking to him. And you think that's it. Bruce Orr's wife worked with Christopher Steele.
And there's the connection. Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr, the Department of Justice, the whole 9 yards. They got a whole direct chain of command right there. Circumventing everything.
The United States trying to get media outlets to publish this garbage. The first thing is about the golden shower, about the sexual encounter that President Trump supposedly had in a Ritz-Carlton hotel in Russia. Let me tell you how I come to find out about Christopher Steele's work product. In December of 2016, John McCain goes to a national security conference in Canada, and somebody tells him about the Steele dossier, and it's bad and you need to know about it, and it gets to John McCain. John McCain puts it in his safe, he gives it to me, and I read it. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, one of two things. This could be Russian disinformation, or they may have something on Trump. If you read this document, the first thing you would think of is they got something on Donald Trump. It is stunning, it is damning, it is salacious, and it's a bunch of crap. They finally find the guy that prepared all the information. But a little bit about Steele. In 2015, the British Intelligence Service said, you need to watch this guy, he's not reliable. They take time to go to London to check Steele out. And they're told he demonstrates lack of self-awareness, poor judgment, keen to help but underpinned by poor judgment, judgment pursuing people with political risk but no intel value. If you'd spend 30 minutes looking at Christopher Steele, you would understand this guy is biased. He's got an axe to grind. He's on the payroll of the opposing party. Take anything he says with a grain of salt. In January 2017, the FBI figures out who the subsource of the Steele dossier is. What you need to know, this is not what Steele found himself. This is what he gathered from one person. They finally found out who this one person is. They go talk to him in January 2017. Where's that summary?
Tell me who it is.
5 people interview.
Tell me who it is.
The primary subsource, the guy that provided Steele with everything.
Who's the subsource?
And they showed him the dossier. Read pages 186 to 190. What does the Russian guy tell the FBI about the dossier? That Steele misstated or exaggerated the prime subsource's statements. That Trump's alleged sexual activities at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Moscow was rumor and speculation. He went on to say he heard it at a bar. And in the report, it suggests that a Western employee of the Ritz-Carlton confirmed this escapade by then private citizen Trump. When he read that, he says, that's not true. I never told Steele that somebody working for the Ritz-Carlton confirmed this. I heard it at a bar. Primary subsource stated that he never expected Steele to put the primary subsource's statements in reports or present them as facts. They were word of mouth and hearsay, conversations had with friends over beers, or statements made in jest that should be taken with a grain of salt. So in January 2017, the person who did all the assembling of the information for the now famous Steele dossier tells the FBI, I disavow everything in there. Now, what should happen? Time out? Let's reassess? Maybe we got this wrong? What would you hope to happen? That the FBI would slow down? Because this is the outcome determinative document that's just had a hole blown through it. They don't slow down. They use the document they now know to be a bunch of garbage twice more to get a warrant against Carter Page.
Gets a lawyer and sues the hell out of the Department of Justice.
I hope to God Carter Page does that. 2 more FISA warrants after the dossier was told that it was garbage. You know, the FBI, these agents, if they can do this to them, they can do it to anybody, guys. Okay? You got to understand something. All right? American Overwatch is here for you guys, and we're going to continue to do the work that we're doing, and we're going to be the ones that are going to continue to connect the dots to these guys that are all biased, that are all corrupt, and we're going to publish that information online. We're going to make it totally 100% transparent, and I don't give a goddamn bit if the FBI comes knocking on my door. Screw you and a diog.
Instead of telling the court the truth, what they're required to do, they lie to the court. A few irregularities. How would you like this to happen in your life? How would you like to be on the receiving end of this? To our people in the news business, what would you like? How would you like this to be your news organization? In January 2017, there is no benefit of the doubt to be given. These 5 people from the Department of Justice and the FBI have been told